Light bang. All right, it's Monday, June 2nd, 2025, regular meeting of the Windsor Heights City Council. Roll call. He's absent. Here.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda. So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
Michael Libby. Yes. Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Item 3, public forum. This is the time set aside for comments from the public on topics of city business other than those listed on the agenda. No action may be taken. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to no more than 5 minutes.
Bob Bishop, 1128 64th Street. I always walk up here and coming down today. That's the best Lions Park's looked since we built Lions Park. I want to thank the council for giving me the time to do this. I really appreciate that opportunity and that we have that. I don't know if you saw it yesterday on CBS Sunday Morning with Jane Pauley, but there was a little piece on a woman named Josiah Ardern, who was the former Prime Minister of New Zealand. At age 37, she was the world's youngest leader, head of government, and she's now teaching at Harvard. Among her legislative accomplishments, she solved a housing crisis, child poverty, social inequality, gun violence, COVID policies that resulted in one of the fewest Western nations to contain it. And you can all read Wikipedia and get her whole story. It's amazing. What gal. Today's story I'd like to tell you is about a young woman I met about 15 years ago in this room. And this was a very angry young woman. I remember she was right over there when she was, but she was upset. You're not telling us when we're having a city council meeting. You're not letting us give your feedback. And when we do give you our feedback, you guys aren't listening. And so at that point, we had a governing body that basically thought the rules didn't apply, and we'll listen, but we have our own agenda. We're going to do what we're going to do. It was Eldridge Cleaver that said, quote, "There is no more neutrality in the world. You are either part of the solution or you're part of the problem." In my eyes, this young woman, much like you said, became part of the solution. She's now well known in Windsor Heights. You all know more about her story than I am. I won't go through all that. I think she was named Citizen of the Year. And so, Susan, today I give you a heartfelt thank you for all of your hard efforts to continually improve quality of life here in Windsor Heights. And I just want to let you know, I think Rob.
Ah,
Well, thank you.
thank you. You, Mr. Bishop. Do you have a shelf for all your awards, Susan?
No, but maybe that's on my honey-do list. Wasn't get done.
Iron done. Ship and shell. Be appropriate. All right, item 4, consent agenda. Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Susan Spears.
Yes.
Michael Libby.
Yes.
Lauren Campbell.
Yes.
Item 5A, consideration of resolution number 2025-2053, a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a lease and service agreement with Safe Haven Baby Boxes Incorporated. So moved. Hello, Chief.
I'm here for any questions.
I assume you are speaking on this matter.
Yes.
Okay.
James Meese, Fire Chief, Windsor Heights Fire Department. Figured I better put a PowerPoint together since Andy started showing us up. So got a very brief PowerPoint kind of going over the Safe Haven Baby Box. You go to the next slide, please. All right, so essentially a recap on the benefits. We have a great added community resource, a good option for mothers. Following somebody delivering a baby to the baby box, we have immediate transport to the appropriate facility. I did check, it's approved for both FD and PD places. So you don't have to have both. You could have one or the other. And as long as it's a 24-hour service, which we both are. So any concern on that is mitigated and we're good to go there. And there is time allowed for funding. I contacted the owner of Safe Haven Baby Box, had a discussion with her. That's one of the priorities that I knew that we needed, was there had to be time for funding for the Knights of Columbus to get that through the process. Next slide, please. Obvious action items is moving forward. We have to have a signed contract with them. We also have to complete training documentation for both PD and FD. And part of my plan too was our closest mutual aid resource, Clive, getting their crews in here so they understood the function of it. They do have access to our building with the Knox box, so no concern there, but understanding kind of how it works, even though it's pretty self-explanatory. But do training, and I would build a documentation program for both PD and FD so that we could keep those daily checks documented. There is the installation cost, which of course has been offered to be funded by the Knights, and we have an ongoing fee of approximately $500 annually. And that fee is the coordination between Safe Haven Baby Box and our dispatch agency, which is currently Westcom. Worst case scenario, annually, we have a $500 annual fee that I have talked with the Knights of Columbus. They said they would pick that up, but should anything change on that avenue, it's $500 a year approximately. We did get a look at the contract. It's a little one-sided, but we do feel comfortable moving forward with it and assuming that liability on the baby box. Are there any questions?
Chief, how many other communities in the metro have this?
Norwalk was talking about getting one last I knew, but they haven't got it installed yet. We would essentially be the first PD or FD to have a Safe Haven Baby Box outside of the hospital. I think, I don't know if it's Mercy or Methodist, have a Safe Haven Baby Box.
Perfect. Thank you.
The one small issue we had is where do we put it? And because they don't want a camera, obviously for privacy, and it would be on this wall here. That's the one wall of the public safety building that we don't have. And obviously we can't use the north side because we don't really have a side over there. So. Any other questions?
And you said that you would have a policy and procedure put in place for every shift.
Yes, and Safe
Haven.
Haven Baby Box has great resources that we can utilize to implement that. And what we'll do is, like, we do daily vehicle checks. Ambulance gets checked in every day. This would just be added to the list. And really, I looked at the procedure. It's like a 5-minute deal. You come in, check it out. By and large, I would expect the fire department to take care of that. But if we were unable to, for some reason on a long incident, we could have PD bop in and then make sure that we get them that check-in documented. I'd probably put together an annual training too, just as a refresher, even though day to day they're going to be doing what they need to make sure this gets taken care of. Any further questions?
All right, any other questions or discussion?
Thank you for your leadership and helping guide us through this. Thank you to the Knights of Columbus for approaching us with this opportunity. And I appreciate, I heard you put in a good word for me with the chapter at St. Teresa's. I got a positive report back, so I appreciate that. But I think this is, I like the things that we are trendsetters on, and I like that we're the first one to do this, especially as a community as small as ours. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, roll call.
Susan Sears?
Yes.
Michael Libby?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
5B, discussion on 74th Street storm sewer project and consideration of authorizing staff to enter into an agreement to complete 74th Street storm sewer cleaning.
You want me to start this or?
You wanna address
Okay. So this is there's two storm sewer, I think systems we're talking about between College and Wilshire, between 73rd Street and the Creek. After we've looked at working on some projects there, we found that there's a bunch of gravel and stuff in the storm system. So part of this, I guess this ask is to get that cleaned out so we can televise to see what the bottom looks like and get that fixed. So we're looking to get some quotes on this if we can't get it cleaned out by city staff means, but my hunch is we're probably gonna have to get some cleaning just because of the amount of debris over the years that's accumulated.
Does it seem like stuff was dumped there or?
No, I think it's just years of dirt and grime and rocks from the storm sewer system just getting flushed down in there. The bottom of the pipe is probably rotted, so it's been collecting in there and just building up over the years. So these are kind of hard places to get to. So we'll be coordinating with the residents and getting that. I think what the line item was up to 55,000 on this one. So the thought was just to get some quotes to clean out if the city staff cannot clean it out themselves. So
Moving forward, will we have something put into place so that we don't have to do this every 10 years or 15 or however many years it's been? Do we have, a policy or procedure so that every year, every 2 years, or every whatever the increment is, so that we're not facing this again later on?
yeah, so part of this is this last CIP, 2 CIPs ago, we had like $50,000 in for storm sewer televising. So that's kind of kicking this off. And we also have, I believe it was in the CIP to do another 50,000 because as you know, a lot of the problem with storm sewer is in the back of the houses. So it's hard to get to CMP pipe that rots in the bottom if water doesn't get out of there. So I think this could be a part of an ongoing thing, getting this, once we get this first round of televising, we can see which areas are needed that, and then hopefully we can start fixing some of those before they get rotten, because the problem is it rots out in the bottom. We're gonna have to fix the bottom before we can actually line it and not do it. So I would think it could be a moving forward once we get these televisings back to see what is actually built up and where the issues are. So
There's an intake cleaning component to this as well, and
Right.
I know Andy's been working on that. Maybe you want to provide some comments?
sorry, we're kind of been working together quite a bit on this situation.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. But to answer the question, I think the direction you were starting to go is internally at Public Works, similar to like the sidewalk inspection zone, setting up the storm system in that same fashion where there's portions of town that are clean jetted and cameraed to verify and make sure everything's all kind of functioning. I think that's the direction that you were trying to get to. So that is ongoing and will be implemented.
That's probably good, and also good for the residents to know that we're, I think sometimes we kicked the can for so long and now here we are. So let's learn from our past mistakes.
Justin was just alluding to, we need to see kind of the status that we're in. So that's what the process that we're at right now of getting that televising cameraing done. Stormwater projects are built into the CIP. So we're on the front end of this kind of maintenance and infrastructure improvement plan. So we're the early steps of that process.
Thank you.
So just to recap, in the CIP this year, we have the storm sewer project component of 74th Street. To be able to complete that project, we need to clean out the debris so that we can see the bottom of this section of pipe. We've televised the rest of it and are working on the engineering design to either line, replace, or otherwise modify that storm sewer pipe out to North Walnut Creek. But to get this project done this year, we need to move forward quickly with cleaning of this and then evaluation of whether it can be lined or it needs to be replaced. And then we can bid out the actual 74th Street storm sewer project this year so that we can move forward with the reconstruction of 74th Street next calendar year.
And is this money being taken from the 50,000 that we had allocated?
Yes, there's a substantial amount, $630,000 of stormwater work anticipated as part of 60 or 74th Street reconstruction, which includes repairs to the storm sewer. So when we went into the project, I think there's a thought we may have to do a lot more replacement to the storm sewer than we're likely ending up having to. I think, Justin, you've got most of the areas that can probably be lined as opposed to replaced, which would be a big cost savings. So the cleaning of this up to $50,000 shouldn't make us go over our stormwater budget component of that reconstruction project.
What about the open air?
Talk about that.
So the open air, as we get looked into it farther, there's a reason why it's an open air right now. The biggest problem is if we wanted to get rid of the open air with a closed pipe, the pipe's essentially sticking out of the ground if we just connected point A to point B. So to do that, to get rid of that, I guess you'd have to lower the pipe, replace more pipe that was needed, getting into people's, they're inside yards again. So trying to get back there with a large pipe, this is 4-foot diameter pipe, so it's not small. And then figuring out how to collect upstream to get into the pipe, because I guess what's happening now, it's just running over land and going in there, and then it goes down. If we had a closed pipe, then we have to lower it and then put an intake in there to pick it up. So the cost just keeps on going, and inconvenience and nightmare of getting back in there.
So
one of
to
the
close
things-
the areas just west of 74th Street, and there's two open culverts. You would need to
74th and
replace the
54th.
entire area from 74th Street to the creek.
Correct. So one of the other thoughts was to make it safe, look at options is maybe not leaving what's there now, but either put some sort of fence or some sort of guard around there, and to do that and less invasive, whatever. So we're kind of looking into those two things of figuring out what we need to do to make it functional and safe, but yet not cause a huge expense and nightmare for the residents that live there, I guess, because remove large trees, fence, all sorts of things, because it's gonna take a huge undertaking to get some of those structures and pipe back in there just because of the size of those, so. So we get some of this figured out, and I guess one of the issues was we're running into is we couldn't televise everything because of the debris that's currently in there and the rotting out of the pipe. So it's been taking a little bit of time to find people that can televise it and get this taken care of.
So we'd like to enclose as much of it as we can, and if council has a strong preference to see the full storm sewer system along that stretch enclosed, it can be done, but it's going to be a fairly invasive process for about a dozen residents or so.
And are we making this, I guess I'm looking at this map and it's not really completely making a whole lot of sense to me. Is like when you say 74th Street, I'm trying to visualize what's going on here, but are we causing more problems for the residents in their backyard if we're adding fences? Will that, how does that work in the backyard?
I think it'd be way less intrusive than us putting a pipe back there. Because if we're putting a pipe in there, we're digging a big hole and fit a 4-foot diameter pipe in, plus structures. Not a big excavator to get down in there to lift some of these structures, because they're 4-foot pipe. You're talking about another 6-foot diameter structure sitting in there. So my thinking was the fence or some sort of other grate or something we can think of to put over top of that. So people make it safe, right? Is way less intrusive than going in there, disturbing the area.
And stopping debris from going
Stopping
into there.
debris in there, going from, it'd be a big undertaking, but.
And then will the gate or grate over it, I'm guessing I can envision, big limbs and stuff getting stopped there. Will that be the homeowner's responsibility to help clear? Is that another to-do list on Public Works? Like, what does that look like? Yeah. Another thing on Andy's list. Awesome.
One thing to look at it as of now, though, if it were compared to now,
Mhm.
just think of all that stuff that's going down in the storm sewer.
Totally,
And
yeah.
if we put some grate or something there, collected outside of that.
Yep.
Would a pipe completely solve that? Yes.
But like you said,
An intake
everything-
down
yeah.
there, if we put an intake down there that still collects stuff, I guess. Got us kind of a situation, not really a situation, but think of it when leaves in the fall, when they hit those grates
Yeah.
or whatever, they just clog everything up. So it'd be similar to that.
Yeah.
Except you might have debris. You might not have as much back there just because it's not running down a street, but it's.
No, that makes sense. Right.
The other thing,
Maintenance.
consideration too, is the impact of replacement and getting everything underground as it crosses the drain system as well. So that whole trail system would be affected by that, as well as It's adjacent on the cross run on 74th as well too.
So what is it you need from council other than that?
Just like it's some direction and I guess we proceed to solicit some quotations. The cleaning up the storm system and get that debris out of there so we can finish televising and finalize plans for the stormwater project.
So to clean out the storm sewer, presuming that the collaborative effort between Public Works and FD doesn't fully resolve it, it's going to be a fairly limited amount of organizations that have the equipment to do that. And again, that expense could be up to $55,000. We have a time pressure because we want to get it cleaned so it can be televised again and evaluate the bottom before putting the projects. The ask is specifically to allow us to move forward with the low quotes for the cleaning, which could be up to $55,000. Don't have a city council meeting in the second, we don't have a second city council meeting in July, so we don't want to hold up the process by potentially a month when we get the quotes to move forward into the council. So we're asking for your approval now to move forward with the cleaning up to that 55.
There's also an actual one in June, so timeframe of pushing things.
And I've also consulted with Chief Meese too. Internally at the city, it looks like there'll be some limitations and capabilities for us to be able to do that. So we're going to have to rely on that outside help or assistance from somebody who has that specialized equipment to be able to do that. So that's the spot that we're at. And I think we've kind of exhausted things internally with the city of what we can do in our capabilities. So we're looking to come outside to get this.
May have missed it, but how long is that debris field?
There's probably anywhere from 40, 45 to 50 feet of debris. Yeah, I think in the staff report, it shows a snapshot of some of the debris that's in there. So there's a fairly large amount of debris that's in there. That pipe's 4 feet in diameter and it's about approximately 50 feet. So it's quite a large volume of debris that's down in there.
Is there any objections from council?
I think it makes sense to go do this, get it done before anything else.
Sounds like you have your direction.
Good.
All right. 5C, consideration of traffic signal repairs at 3E and 73rd Street.
So this is really the signals at 3 and 73rd of the detection has gone bad in the 3E part. They're the old cut-in detection systems that are on the pavement itself. You can see the triangle cutouts. What this is doing is replacing those with camera systems similar to essentially what is on University. This helps. Couple things with that is a lot of the detection for 3E was the semis. It was between the tracks and 73rd, right? So a car could fit in there, sit on there, trip it. If you were a semi with a long trailer, they're not going to pull over and park on the tracks for a while. So they were hesitant, even though 3E told them they could pull out. Not too many people, trains on that. Anyways, this is those went bad. So we switched to this to put the detection and also a battery backup system. So when the power goes out, this thing will run for an extended period of time until either the power comes up or we have to Public Works has to bring in a backup generator, or you just have to goes on flashing or nothing, right? So essentially this is to replace. We split this out to save some money. There's two different quotes. One is to buy the parts and the equipment directly from the supplier, and then Baker Electric, who has been maintaining your traffic systems to install everything. So we split this up to save some money and time, and they can get that stuff ordered pretty quickly. There were some other wish list things on there, but we decided to wait on those because we'd have a better off chance of getting better pricing when that phase of 73rd goes. We can kind of loop everything in, connect over those things and together. So this is really to get that thing functional. Right now, it's just running on a timer system, no detection out there. So what a timer system does, it just gives 30 seconds to straight through, flip it, even though somebody's not coming in, 3E, whatever, come in and do it. So this will take care of all that stuff along with upgrading it to the battery backup system. So I think you've had issues with power source out there anyways, so this will solve that problem as well at the same time.
So this will be compatible with anything that we put on 73rd Street.
Correct, and this is why we went with the brand, because it's with traffic signal systems, it's better to have all the components together in case something goes out, you know what it is, you're not mix matching pieces and whatnot. So as we keep on going with the systems, have an upgrade, we'll continue to use this stuff, the same manufacturer in the system, so it's compatible.
That would be the goal too, is to eventually have everything connected together with the fiber line that's in there. That would help us from a monitoring and responding to incidents or calls or issues. So it's kind of the initial steps just to get this thing this intersection in a state that is better off from a functionality standpoint, but the greater goal is eventually to have the whole traffic system integrated into be in a better spot from a maintenance standpoint, be able to respond to issues.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
Michael Libby? Yes. Mark Beam?
Yes.
All right, 5D, discussion on park hours.
Andy's the star of the show tonight.
Andy, are you wanting to talk on this one or?
Let you lead the way.
You're standing there.
There was a stalemate. I thought someone was going
You
to.
can call Pete in if you want.
I guess so. Well, if you have.
I'll go ahead and chime in. So we've made some lovely improvements to the park. We've had a couple of issues recently at that park with vandalism. And we'd like to get some signs placed out on the playground, just lining out the general rules for utilizing that playground. And then also post some signage at the entrances to the park as well with the park hours on it, which would enable law enforcement to have people leave the park if they're outside of those hours. So we reviewed our current park hours, which are open from 5 a.m. till 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday until midnight on Friday and Saturday. Looking at some of our other communities in the metro, those hours are fairly extensive relative to those. So we'd like some council feedback on amending those park hours to potentially sunset to sundown with some qualifiers on there if you have an active rental agreements or special authorization from Public Works, city administrator, and or there's a city function happening after those hours and the park would be open. But before we post any signage, we want to get clarification if there's a desire to adjust those park hours. And then the plan would be to incorporate that in our overall ordinance update and get that signage posted. So welcome any feedback. If you don't like sunset to or sunrise to sunset, you can certainly look at some other adjustments. There's some examples there in Des Moines, West Des Moines, Norwalk of what they're doing. Can range from sunset to 10:30 during the summertime. But after department heads and I have spoken, this is our recommendation is to go sunrise to sunset.
So if people are there, let's say, they're there on the playground or whatever they're doing. Is this one thing that the police will patrol this, or is this kind of a tool to use if things are going wrong, or, will we just be kicking everybody out at sunset, or kind of, is it one of those, we won't do anything until we're called there or until something happens where we have to kind of the vandalism that we've been having?
Chief, you're welcome to chime in. I know that PD does go through the park, at least once a night, check the community center to ensure it's locked, secured, nothing's happened out there. I imagine they're probably out there more than that, driving through, but probably not going to catch everybody that's out there after sunset. And the trail would remain open. I should also note the Windsor Trail is open 24/7, and it's proposed to stay that way as part of this. You still have some folks potentially utilizing the trail system for exercise after those hours.
Yeah, generally, when the park closes, the officers are going down there or patrolling, checking the CEC building, making sure the doors are secured. I remember sunset in the summer is about 9:45 at night, so we're really pushing that later hour anyway. And it's generally easier for us to enforce if there's a set signage that's posted. We have to do that by case law. And really, a lot of things can happen. Risky things can happen in the dark, in the park, injuries, people playing and hurting themselves. And usually, like we talked about before I got here, nothing really, after dark, really nothing really goes good down there unless it's an official event with lighting, proper lighting and staffing down there. So we had a department meeting on Wednesday. I discussed it with all the officers that were here. They were in favor for the sunrise to sunset, that also in the winter, it shuts down a little earlier too. And the big issue is the restrooms that are open quite a long time when most restrooms are shut. That just invites more vandalism. And this is like, I think we've had 5 events down there since really summer has kicked off. So not getting off on the right foot down there. But yes, they would patrol that. Generally, we just kind of kick them out. But if it becomes an issue, then there's some action that they can take. It's a scheduled fine that they can write a ticket on.
How would you adjust the timers then? For the bathrooms?
We would mainly adjust or reset those depending on the season.
Okay.
And usually the exterior restrooms are shut down through the winter anyway. So from that Thanksgiving to I'd say sometime into March timeframe, the exterior bathrooms aren't open for usage anyway. It's really just that spring, summer, fall. That's when those bathrooms are open and in public use.
So this is just a discussion. We're looking for feedback. If everybody's generally comfortable with that, we'll move forward with getting those signs printed and get the ordinance updated as part of our process.
It's a good idea.
In that direction.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Anything else from you?
And the playground rules, is that just for us to?
That's a draft. If you have specific things like no lizards in the playground that you'd like added in there, we can do that. But I think even that's covered under keeping your pet on a leash. So
I think they do have a lizard.
Thanks for looking out. There was a lizard. Somebody had their bearded dragon down at the park, and I suggested sternly that the bearded dragon did not belong on the merry-go-round. It wasn't fair to the animal, and that child's mother did not like that I suggested that.
Was it on a leash?
It was not.
Oh.
No, I'm glad to see. I think posted rules would help. I find myself policing a lot of behavior down there. The big butterfly statue, there was a kid just rock, and I was afraid that they were going to get launched with it, and so I think it'll help.
Even at events, I don't really want to walk that way because I don't really want to have to police other children, but I also don't want anyone to get hurt, and I want the equipment to be there. So I think this is nice to have the rules, and then, it's always good to have posted rules to go back on.
All right, reports. My report is in the packet. I think the most important thing I would highlight is that the policy committee, the MPO, awarded the city $2 million in STBG funding for the 73rd Street Phase 2 project. Ms. Campbell.
My photography business was a sponsor at the Chamber's Central Iowa Business Conference. Thank you, Susan, for helping man that for me. And she talked to a lot of folks, and it wouldn't surprise me if she convinced some of them to sponsor special events for us in the future. Thank you to City Hall staff, Public Works, Fire, and Police, and our friends at Bolton and Mink for their work in planning, executing, and celebrating the splash pad ribbon cutting. Susan did an amazing job with her remarks, and shout out to Jason, Nate, and Adam Plaguey, and Representative Jennifer Confers for joining me under the splash buckets for the inaugural dump, I suppose. Thank you to staff for making Touch a Truck possible. A huge thank you to Susan for partnering with the Des Moines Children's Museum to make this a huge event, as evident by the multiple messages that we've received, as well as the museum staff on what an amazing event it was. Ashlyn from the museum reached out to Susan and I today and to say that so many people have reached out to her that this is the best Touch a Truck, the best event that they'd gone to. So that felt great. And I believe Susan has them on board for future events as well. And then congratulations to Chief Roth, who was named the Iowa Police Chiefs Association Law Enforcement Executive of the Year. He's a modest leader and would hate to have any fuss made for him. So there are completely unrelated birthday cupcakes at the back of the room for everyone to enjoy. That's all.
Libby? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also attended the Central Iowa Business Conference and had the opportunity to work with Tiffany and others, interviewing some of the high-profile presenters. And it was really, I think, perhaps one of the most successful projects that I've seen. I've been involved for 5 years now. And one of the things that the Urbandale Chamber did was help take over the small business section of the training. And our friends from Strategic America were there talking about cool things to do for your SEO and et cetera. A great program. The splash pad event was wonderful. I was wearing leather shoes, so I didn't want to take part of that. But in Touch a Truck, I saw Susan probably every other week at Grounds for Celebration. Planning that went into that was awesome. And I think it was really enjoyed. I'd like to find out how many Windsor Heightsians were there for that. And I talked to Adam earlier. Maybe the partnership can give us some numbers on that. And finally, I was a bit conflicted about being here tonight. This is the first day of the festival of Shavuos, which is kind of important because that's the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai about 3,300 years ago. The point being, why do I bring that up? The point being that what's in that is how we do so much of our jurisprudence, from our court system to how we recognize communities and leadership and all kinds of things. So it's a day that I shouldn't be working as well as tomorrow, but I'm grateful to be here. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Well, I'm grateful you're here too, Michael. 'Cause,
We wouldn't have been able
We
to have a
wouldn't
meeting.
been able to govern, so thank you for being here. Ms. Garys.
The last 2 weeks have been very busy. I had the opportunity to attend Women in Government meeting that I helped to schedule out in Bondurant, where we gathered leaders from across the region. Our next meeting will take place here in Windsor Heights this August, hosted at our Community Event Center. The topic that we'll be reviewing is homelessness. So I'm looking forward to all the meaningful discussion that will come with that. I also attended the Urbandale Chamber's Central Iowa Business Conference, where I learned a lot, especially about artificial intelligence and its impact on our day-to-day living, basically. One of the highlights was also hearing Dr. Ian Roberts from Des Moines Public Schools speak. Last week, I was stopped in at the Public Works Open House, where I got to hear Andy give a great presentation on all that our Public Works department does, and I had the chance to meet several new staff members. So welcome aboard to them. Tuesday, I attended the AM Exchange to promote our Touch a Truck event. It was a great networking opportunity, and as a result, I'm now working on a few new sponsorships for some upcoming events. Then Tiffany from the Chamber and I had a very productive meeting with Eddie from Walmart, who will be joining our Special Events Committee. We're excited about the new opportunities this partnership will bring to the city. So I will admit that much of my time these past couple of weeks have been spent planning Touch a Truck and preparing for our upcoming movie in the park on June 6th, where we'll be showing The Lion King. So the splash pad ribbon cutting on Friday was fun, especially seeing staff and elected officials get soaked during the inaugural dunk. The splash pad was packed afterwards, and it's clear it's already a hit with the families. So Touch a Truck itself went really well. We were blown away by the turnout. I'm waiting to get the final attendance numbers from Tiffany because there was no way I could keep count. Lots of kids running all around. So the food trucks were a huge hit and really helped keep families in the park longer. So a huge thank you to Ashlyn from the Des Moines Children's Museum for being an incredible partner in planning this event. And thank you to Julie and Lauren for helping with signage, staffing the check-in, tackling every other task that came their way for this event. Thanks to Adam, Andy, and the Public Works crew for helping to keep the park clean and for stepping in to help with cleanup when I couldn't take another step. Thank you also to the fire and police departments for attending and answering a million questions from curious kids. Next year, I will ask that the horns be disconnected to save the sanity of us at the event. Of course, thank you to our Touch a Truck sponsors, businesses, and organizations that participated. It was an amazing event, and Ashlyn and I are already talking about how to make next year even bigger. So looking ahead, we have a few things that I want to highlight. Friday at 8:30 is the State of the City breakfast. Make sure to register. Mayor Jones is the keynote speaker. Same evening at 8:30 is our movie in the park. Then July 11th is Bankers Trust Lunch in Windsor Heights. That's not always publicized very well, so I wanted to make sure everybody got that down. On Thursday, June 12th, Wine Down Windsor Heights. It will be hosted at Centra Field from 4 to 5 p.m., so it's not our usual early morning. Also, please RSVP if you plan to attend. And then because I've been responding to text messages, the annual Windsor Heights garage sale will be on June 6th and 7th, and spring cleanup will follow the next weekend on June 14th. So looking forward to another fun-filled month.
AJ? Just note staff walked the Windsor this afternoon, and they are just wrapping up some improvements to that storm sewer system, just in time for some potential rain and wind tonight. So glad they've got that more or less in good shape now.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Susan Sears?
Yes.
Michael Libby?
Yes.
Lauren Campbell?
Yes.
All right, pursuant to Iowa Code 2017-3, council will move into an exempt session. Negotiating sessions, strategy meetings of public employers, mediation, and the deliberative process of arbitrators shall be exempt from the provisions of Chapter 21.